Hey everyone, this is Stephen James from Project Life Mastery, and right now I'm being joined by Steven Summers from Marketplace Superheroes. Steven is a friend of Project Life Mastery's over many, many years. He's been a guest here on Project Life Mastery, doing tons of content and videos on how to make money on Amazon. Steven has been a mentor of mine and Tatiana's in this space. He's been one of the go-to people that we've learned from to get started with Amazon. And he's just a brilliant mind that's really immersed in this space. And so as Tatiana and I were kind of getting reacquainted with the opportunities on Amazon, we wanted to bring back Steven, pick his brain, talk to him a little bit about making money on Amazon today. He's got a very unique method that's working incredibly well for his students, that is different than physical products. And what I mean by that is private labeling products, which is a traditional method that we've spoken a lot about in the past here on Project Life Mastery. And so Stephen graciously created another video that has a video tutorial of this method. So if you haven't watched that, make sure you do. I'll link to that in the description. And this video, I want to dive deeper into what Stephen has shared in that separate video to basically cover all the basic questions that most people would have about this opportunity. So Stephen, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Stefan, it is always a pleasure. I am so glad to be here with you. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's answer every question that you've got, and let's provide as much value as we possibly can today.
Sounds good. And so this method is most commonly referred to as wholesaling products on Amazon. Can you explain a little
Yeah.
bit about, I know people that watch the video will get a better understanding. So again, I want to encourage people to make sure you watch that, but how would you describe this method? How does it work for someone that is
Yeah.
new to this?
Yeah, well, I would say first of all, this method really is one of the simplest, if not the simplest way to get an online business up and running. And the reason for that is because what we're actually doing is we're selling well-known products, well-known branded products and well-known products from those well-known brands on Amazon. You could be talking about brands like Lego, Disney, Samsung, really well-known household names. And in some cases, we're actually selling some brands that you or I may not have heard of quite as well. An example of that we talk about sometimes is this brand called Beauty of Joseon or Joseon. I'm never sure how you say that, but it's a beauty range that sell all kinds of different products. I never heard of this brand in my life, but they're making a lot of money on Amazon. And so specifically what we're doing is we're able to get access to these products from well-known brands, and we're able to ethically and legally resell those items on Amazon. And if you actually think about it, like Amazon is both a retailer themselves and they're a marketplace as well. So they retail about 12 million different products. But when you bring in the third-party sellers, people like you and me, who are selling sometimes well-known brands, or as you just talked about earlier on, they could be selling their own brands as well, which we're obviously not talking about today. But that total number of items sold on Amazon rises to about 353 million, probably more by the time we're speaking today. But what we are really doing here is we're tapping into these well-known brands and we're finding wholesale distributors. These are companies that are a link between big brands and resellers. And resellers, there's all kinds of different ones. These could be local retailers that actually have a literal physical store. And they could be people like us who are taking these products and they're reselling them on online marketplaces like Amazon. And sometimes, Stefan, people are wondering, like, is this even legal that I could sell like a Lego product? Like, I'm worried it's like counterfeit or something like that. And so, how we really overcome that is we work with authorized resellers. Oftentimes, we work with big companies who've been around a long time, who have a direct connection with these various different brands. And as a result of that, we're able to get permission to sell these brands on Amazon, because if ever Amazon come along and say, "Hey, Stefan, you're selling Lego products now. Show us that these are actually legitimate." Well, because we're buying from these domestic wholesale distributors who have access to all these different products, all we have to do is show Amazon our invoice where we bought all these different items, and Amazon go, "Oh yeah, we know that company. We've heard of them before. We know they only stock these real products. Therefore, we give you, Stefan, permission to sell these because you're buying them from the right source." Because if you even look on the Amazon website, you scroll down to the bottom in the sell on Amazon area, you can, in the make money with us, it says, you click through there and they will literally say on Amazon, like there's two different ways to make money with product selling on Amazon. One is to to have your own stuff with your own brand, or two, resellers, people that get access to these different branded products are allowed to come onto the Amazon platform and they're absolutely allowed to sell these products. But again, the key is we find the right suppliers to work with. So does that answer the question? I don't know if it
Yeah,
was
it
really
does. I
clear.
guess, one way, like maybe I'm processing it that I'm not sure if this makes sense, but if you're to look at it maybe in more in an offline type of world, let's say that you owned your own toy store. It's like a local
Yeah.
toy store. And at that toy store, you're going to find many different products, maybe Lego being one of the products that you want to sell. And so if you want to sell Lego at your local toy store, then you're going to go to a reseller or a distributor that would allow you to buy a variety of Lego products from that brand that you would then put in your store and sell it there. Even though Lego has their own store, like if you go to the mall, Lego might have their own branded store where you can also go to and buy Lego products just from that store. You're basically creating your own online store on Amazon and going to the distributor and selling those Lego products or whatever type of products that you'd want on your own store, but also on those listings that already exist on Amazon. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, and that's actually a great, thanks for saying that because that's actually a key point because there's so much we can talk about. I always try to go bit by bit because
Hmm.
if not, it can feel overwhelming, but it's actually quite simple, really. But one thing you said there I think is really important, and you were talking about Amazon listings.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we're only ever going to sell proven products from these well-known brands. But there's two things I want to talk about. One, when we do buy from a distributor, we only have to buy a box of 10 or 20 units of a product, and we would simply buy a lot of different products from that distributor. You see, some people might be worried, like, oh, I have to buy 500 or 1,000 units of one item, and sell it on Amazon. It's not the case. So that was one thing I wanted to mention. But the bigger thing was listings. So on Amazon, in case you watching today are not sure about this, there's only ever one instance of any product on Amazon. In other words, there's one listing per product. And a product listing, in case you don't know, is when you go into an item and you see like the description and everything. You would have seen it on my video. I covered it in really good detail there. You would see that. But in case you didn't see the video or whatever, just to clarify, you go into the product and you see the product, you see the description, the price over on the right hand side, the buy box and all that. That's an Amazon listing. And so because there's only one instance of any product on Amazon, it means that different people get to compete for to sell that exact item. And so what we're not doing is we're not creating that listing, we're not writing the copy, we're not taking pictures of the item. We're only ever selling products that right now as we speak are making money on Amazon. And what we're doing is we're getting access to a small quantity of them, we're sending them to Amazon, and we're positioning ourselves in such a way that we get a share of the sales and profits of these different products. And we'll go into that a bit more maybe in this video. I know I went into a lot of detail on the buy box in my other
Mm.
video, but in case we need to clarify that, we can. But that's a key. We're selling proven items. We're not wondering, are we going to make money? We know that these items are making money. We're simply wondering, well, how many sales are we going to make? What percentage of the sales are we going to pick up when we get access to this product and we send it into Amazon? So I think that's what's key. Because
Yeah.
again, if you're doing private label, it's still a fantastic business model. But at the end of the day, you're establishing a new listing on the Amazon platform. You got to drive traffic to that listing. In other words, get people to go there and buy it and all of that. And it can work out fantastically well, like as you and I both well know. But I think for people starting out, what's easier, right? Is it easier to sell a Lego product or is it easier to sell Stevens bricks, right? I think we know the answer to that one.
Yeah, yeah, and this is a really something I wanted to dive into is how this is different than private labeling. You're someone who's been a teacher and very successful in your own personal business and helping other people with both of these models.
Yeah.
And in many cases, what you've been sharing with me is that many people are having way more success with this method than they were with the private labeling. And so you guys have really prioritized this just because it's a lot simpler for people, less money to get started, less risk, a lot of great benefits which you could dive into. But it seems like some of the biggest differences with the private label model, you have to manufacture certain number of products. That's why you need to have a minimum order quantity of maybe 100 or a couple hundred or maybe even 1,000 units, depending on the manufacturer of your product. Versus with this, you're not manufacturing the product; you're basically getting it through a distributor or a reseller. And so that right there significantly changes the amount of money that's involved in this model, as well as the level of risk that someone's taking. Is that right?
Yeah, again, just to be clear, and neither Stefan nor I are saying like private label doesn't work or whatever. There's people building huge businesses doing that. We're talking about people starting out. And like it or not, in my business, Marketplace Superheroes, Stefan, we together have helped a lot of people who are beginning on their journey online. And so that's who we're speaking to today if you're starting out. So to answer to your question, it is like miles less risky, really, when you look at it versus private label. Obviously, with private label, we try to mitigate our risks as much as possible, but at the end of the day, we don't know. Whereas with this one, the biggest risk that you can take is maybe you order a box of 10 units or something, or 20 if it comes in a box of 20, whatever the box quantity is of an item, right? Well, that's kind of your risk, really, because you will not order more than the box quantity when you're getting started with this model. How it works here is in private label, we have a minimum order quantity with a Chinese supplier. We have to manufacture everything. Here, we're going to a distributor, and what we have is what they call a minimum order value. Now, the distributor is domestically located, which is another big difference. In other words, if you're looking to sell on Amazon.com, you'll be working with US based suppliers, which means you're going to get into stock in a week, maybe 2 weeks, sometimes less, right? Private label, it's going to take months because you got to get it manufactured. That takes about a month, maybe a bit more, 3 months on the water. So it's 4 months or more before you even get into stock. With this one, we're in stock within a week or two. We're only ordering small box quantities, and that brings down our risk quite significantly. And also, even when we start scaling up this model, we'll only ever like hold about 30 days stock of an item. Why? Because we can order it on hand all the time. We call that replenishing. So we can replenish all the time. Therefore, there's no need for us to order crazy amounts of it. Like we'd be wasting our time and money doing that. As long as the wholesale distributor in question has these in stock, we can just order in smaller quantities. But when we're launching, you can launch with some suppliers. It could be $250. That's all you have to order, minimum order value. So it's the total value. And so you can make that up whatever way you want. You can have lots of different products in there with small quantities. And we encourage our members to do that because obviously we're spreading our risk all the time. We're only ordering a small amount of each different item. And what is the real risk here, right? Because that's the big question. The real risk is I just cannot get access to that buy box. And we talked about the buy box a lot in our other video, but we can certainly go over it again. That's the biggest risk. Nobody can click buy now and I get credited for the sale. So in that case, what we do, let's say we're selling something for, let's say it's $30. That's how much it's selling for. And we just cannot get in there. No matter if we price it at $30, no matter what we do, we're just not getting a share of the sales. Well, we just drop the price to say 25 and we sell out our 10 units. We will get access to the buy box if we do that. As I covered in the video, the lowest price, if you're really the lowest price, you're gonna get access there. It's just how the buy box works, and you'll sell it out. Or worst case scenario, if for some unthinkable reason you couldn't move your 10 units on Amazon, you could sell them on eBay. And
Yeah.
then so really when you think about that,
Yeah.
let's say you have 10 different products and two of them, whatever, you just cannot get access to the buy box. But maybe you've got 20 units in total. Maybe you paid, I don't know, $3, $4 each. So the risk level there is very low, $80 or whatever it is, depending on the price point that you bought the products for. So that's the thing. Whereas with private label, at the end of the day, it could be a few $1,000s that you're risking on a couple of products. And so for anybody listening today, understand there's no business model in the world that has zero risk, right? And we're not saying that because that would not be realistic, would not be ethical. And we're not about that. We're about giving you the real information here that's actually working. But I think when you look at it, especially versus traditional businesses, where like, you're starting a coffee shop, how much money do you have to put into that business? We're talking about something whereby we can order small quantities of many different items that are already working, that are already making money and all of that. And so really for me, it's very low risk. And obviously one of the questions that often comes on from that, Stefan, is, well, it sounds too good to be true. And I get that, right? But here's the thing. The profit margins you will make on this kind of thing, or even the return on investment that you'll make, will not be at the same level as if you took the risk on bringing in your own brand of products. But however, even though your return will not be as high, Your risk levels are tiny. The
Mhm.
speed of getting to market is infinitely faster. And at the end of the day, you're literally able to dip in and you can make sales. I'm not joking, within minutes of being in stock sometimes.
Mhm.
We've even made sales before we got into stock. And how we did that was we were sending in some units of an item. Amazon saw that we had them in transit in their system, and they literally sold some of those items before they even hit the Amazon warehouse because they knew they would. So, like, I'm not saying that's going to happen for you when you start
Mhm.
out, but what I am saying is the speed at which you can see your first dollar online, your first $100, your first $1,000. Like, we have many different people in our program who, in their first 30 days, did well over $1,000. We've got one guy, Will. In his first week of doing this, he did $1,100 in revenue, having never done anything like this before. So, like, the speed of results is also huge. And let's face it, when you're a beginner, you want to see proof that you can do it,
Yeah.
proof of concept. And with something like this, you can get it within hours or days of getting into stock, you know?
That's amazing. So is a big part of the method then in terms of scaling it would be just ramping out more products? Like, because I can imagine because of the lower cost of entry of doing this, you could really, if someone does have some money, they could really throw that money in many different ways. They could try many different products, see which ones are selling, the ones that aren't. Okay, fine. Those ones aren't worth doing. So I'm going to just try to
Yeah.
sell off that inventory that I have of that, and just you can really, it seems like you could do a lot of testing and try many different products with this versus with private labeling. You don't want to spread yourself too thin. You don't want to do too much at once. You just want to focus on one thing. And then one of the challenges, of course, with private labeling is because you've invested so much and been patient for months and set up the listing and set up the brand and the logo
Yeah.
and all that stuff, it's harder to walk away from that, because that's kind of
Yeah.
one challenge that I've seen some people have is they're like, my product's not selling. And, just months are going by and they're trying to get it selling. And it's a lot harder to abandon that to move on to a new one when you've already invested so much into this versus with this method, it seems like, yeah, the risk level is so much lower that yes, you could still be out a couple $100 maybe, or you could resell it or whatever it is, but it just allows you to scale, I guess, in a different type of way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our wholesale account that we show publicly this year, it should do the best part of $2 million top line revenue, maybe more, but we don't know, maybe less. We don't know. We haven't got to that point yet. We'll have to wait and see. But certainly, it's on a trajectory to do those kinds of numbers. And in there, yeah, like we sell lots of different products. We share and show some of those different products. Like, I mean. There was one item I always laugh at. You used to need this one, Stefan. Maybe you still need it. I'm not sure now. It was called Abs of Steel. It's a cream you got to put on your abs, right? You used to have abs.
Right,
Maybe you
right.
still do. I don't know.
No, not
I'm not
anymore.
sure if you still do. Yeah, mine are hiding as well. Anyway, mine are hiding at the moment. But anyway, we did like $82,000 in sales with that product over a number of months. Now, some people might be saying, well, that's not like a Lego product or a Disney product. And yeah, it's not, right? Then that's the point. Like, we will sell lots of different items. We also did a Shark, or like they do like vacuum cleaners, things like that. They're a pretty well-known brand globally. We sold one of their products. We did $16,000 over a few months. Why? Because it sold out. We couldn't get it again from the distributor. So it's that kind of a business, like, where we're selling lots of different things. We were selling like these Mike, my business partner, to one of the products that launched his career were these Paw Patrol. I think they were like wipes or something like that, or no, no, wallets. They were wallets for kids, I think it was. And so, like, that's the thing. Like, they're very different items in lots of different categories, and yeah, it's very low in risk. And as you scale, like you talked about, you brought it up. We didn't really get to it, but you quite rightly said scaling sounds like there's more products required, and really all it comes down to is it's just two things, and that is suppliers and products. That's basically it, right? Now you might add in brands there as well, because obviously the more brands you get access to from these suppliers, you're going to sell lots of different products from these brands. You're going to cherry pick them, but ultimately that's it. You find more suppliers with more products, and in some cases you won't even need more suppliers because a single wholesale distributor sometimes can be holding 5,000 different individual items,
Right. Yeah.
right? Like, some of them are huge. We have many examples of that we do show as well. And here's what's really interesting. With private label, it's always like there's always this thing of like, I can never tell somebody what I'm selling is kind of like a thing that can happen there. Obviously, some people they build really successful brands. They want to tell people about it. Tatiana being a great example of that kind of thing. But in my experience, a lot of times beginners don't want to tell anybody what they're selling. But I don't mind saying, like, because oftentimes many of our clients are buying different products from the exact same wholesale distributor. And that's fine because the amount of different items that they're offering. And even if a few different people end up buying the same item, usually they only have a small quantity. We're all sharing the sales. We're not looking to dominate and take all the sales, all the money on a particular item because number one, it'd be really hard to do that. But number two, when you think about Amazon and what they're trying to achieve, they're trying to give everybody who prices themselves competitively, meaning we're all in and around the same kind of price point. If it was
Mhm.
19.99, everyone's like 19.99, 19.98, $20. But if someone's $40, okay, you're not competitively priced. If you're competitively priced and you're using Amazon's fulfillment services, which we do, and we recommend,
Mhm.
like you are typically going to get a share of the sales. Now, there are some small instances where maybe Amazon or have decided they're going to take the vast majority of sales. That happens from time to time, but the good news for anybody listening today is we can see that before we even consider placing an order. And like I said at the top of the call today, 12 million items are sold by Amazon, but in a lot of cases, everyone is sharing the buy box, including Amazon. A small percentage, Amazon don't, that's fine. But there's 353 million products sold on Amazon. So really, like when you look at it, there's so much opportunity.
Yep.
It's actually hard to comprehend the size of Amazon. They ship out 1.6 million different parcels a day, maybe more now, right? It's quite staggering the numbers, really.
Yeah. So one question that I have is how competitive would you say this is, and maybe compared to private labeling?
Yeah.
So basically, with the buy box, for those that are unaware and haven't watched the other video, what you're referring to is when you go to buy a product on Amazon, there's a link that says other sellers.
Mhm.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure what determines the default seller of that
Yeah.
listing. But when you click on other sellers, you're going to see many other people selling that product. And that's kind of where you and I would come in, right? We would be one of those other
Well,
sellers. Yeah.
not
Go ahead.
necessarily, actually,
Okay.
which is the good news. So that's a great question. I'm really glad you asked it. So you're right in saying when you go to an Amazon listing, you can go down on the right hand side. If you're on your computer, you'll see new and used other
Yeah.
sellers.
Right.
But what our goal actually is, our goal with this methodology is we want access to the main buy box. When you go to that screen and it
Yep.
says
Yep.
add to cart, buy now, and just beneath it, sold by
Yep.
company
That's
name, ships from Amazon. We want that. And so to get that, we initially will be down in that other sellers area. And we'll always be there if someone clicks through, if we're not in the buy box, meaning if we're not in that area where it says ships from our company, sold by Amazon.
mm,
How we get there, super simple. One, price competitively. So, like I was just talking about a minute ago, if it's 19.99, sell it for 19.99. Pretty much that's what you should do. And then secondly, you use Amazon's fulfillment services. And throughout the day, you'll see it. If you go back to an item long enough and people are competitively priced, you will see that buy box changing ownership throughout the day
right.
because Amazon is trying to give everybody who's competitively priced and using their shipping services a slice of the sales. Because if only one person got all the sales, well, people would stop sending it in, and
Yes.
then Amazon would start to rely on one seller or another. So that
Right.
that's how we get in there.
Got
Yeah,
it. And then if you also see, then each of those sellers have reviews as well, right? So people that are buying from the seller, they can review
yeah.
them. And I guess that's mostly based on how well they fulfilled the product and shipped it to them usually, or
Well,
does that
actually,
make a factor in, if you have lower reviews, is Amazon not going to give you as much of that
yeah,
space?
yeah. So yeah, no doubt as your account becomes what we call more seasoned, you will inevitably get even more access to that buy box. But even as a new seller, we've got many of them in Marketplace Superheroes, you will get access to that buy box on products where Amazon are not dominating it. You will, as long as you follow the rules. You probably won't get as much of a percentage of the buy box as a more established seller, but you will get some. And in some cases, you might need to sell a little bit below where you'd like to ideally be just to get a bit of traction and get some sales. But it's not the same as with private label, where, a really big factor is reviews and
Yeah.
feedbacks and things like that. This is more a product driven approach, but certainly, yeah, what you're saying is true, Stefan. As your account becomes older, you'll get even more access and you'll likely scale up a bit faster as a result.
Got it. And so in
Yeah.
terms of the competition, is that more with the other sellers that are also selling that same product? And then just how competitive
Yeah.
would you say this is? Because it doesn't seem like many people know about this as much as private
Yeah.
labeling. So for example, I know just as a YouTuber, content creator, there's lots of videos with millions of views on how to sell on Amazon that are more geared towards private labeling and a lot less with this. And I think it's mostly because a lot of people they kind of grasp the private labeling a little bit more than this. This requires a little bit more explanation, but when people understand it, they're like, "Oh wow, there's like a big light bulb that goes off." And especially for people that I think are considering the two options, this becomes a lot more attractive to a lot of people. So it seems like
Yeah.
there's competition, but maybe not as much because one of the big points that people bring up maybe with private labeling is that it's so saturated because they're trying to sell a product that's already being sold 50 other 50 times like the exact same product. They have to differentiate the product. There's kind of a little bit more of a different approach that someone has to take to stand out from competition than with this method here.
Yeah, and I think again, just to comment on, where is private label in Amazon these days? I mean, at the end of the day, it's now a brand play. It used to be a little bit different. And certainly, yeah, there are many different small like products you can find where you can get in there and you could make sales and the brand wouldn't be that vital. We see it, right? But at the same time now it has changed quite right. Like you just said, like a lot of people know about that opportunity. That being said, a lot of people don't do it the right way. So the competition isn't quite as good as you might think. But I will say, when you think about it, if someone's trying to sell like a garlic press, right? With their own brand. It's going to be a
Yeah.
massive uphill challenge. Like massive is the worst possible thing you could try to sell, right? Whereas if in this one we could look at garlic presses that are selling really well, and if we can find a garlic press from a known brand, we can see there's multiple sellers selling that item. Excuse me. Like I showed you in the video, we could potentially Google that brand name, wholesale distributor USA or wholesale distributor New York, wholesale distributor Los Angeles, just to get the different sides of the states. And we could find someone where we could buy that exact garlic press and we could become one of the sellers that gets a share of the sales of that item. So the competition's a little bit different here in that we expect competition here. It's fine. It's more on like a individual product basis. And also the difference here is that there's already existing traffic for these different items, meaning people are like going to Amazon daily. An example I showed recently in a video was like a Funko Pop,
Oh, yeah.
like the little toy guys,
Yeah. I
the
got a
cheap
collection.
toys. I was thinking you did have that, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I had the Joker from the Batman animated series, and I was showing that. And then you can look at it and you can see what's going on. And you can see like there's okay, it was a small amount of people in this particular example, but there is people that are going to Amazon now typing in like, Joker, Batman animated series Funko Pop, and they're finding the exact item that they want to buy. And we can see with our software, Hero Launchpad, we can scan these different listings and we can see how much revenue they're producing. Okay, it's estimated, but it's pretty accurate from what I've seen, having looked at the sales of various different items that we're selling in our account. Very similar. So we can see the sales, we can see the amount of units that are being sold, we can see who else is selling it. So we can quickly kind of go, well, look, based upon what we're seeing here, even though there's 10 sellers trying to sell this exact same item, there's only three that are competitively priced. Everybody else is way more expensive because they're just trying to pick up a sale here and there on the off chance someone goes out of stock or whatever. And so what we're really looking at is that. And we're seeing, well, even though there's 10 here, if we came in as the fourth seller, we may get like, let's say 25% of the sales. Not that we will, we don't exactly know, but we would calculate it as that because, well, that's what the data is telling us. It's telling us we may get that much, right? I think that's the difference. It's like, even though competition could seem high on a product, when you analyze it, it mightn't even be high because some people are just, they're not pricing themselves right. And because we can get into stock within a week or two, it's not like in private label, whereby you could literally put a couple of $1,000s into an item, and by the time it lands in Amazon in your account, there's a ton more competition for that
Yeah.
exact item. And
Yeah.
now you're just trying to be found and trying to be found. Whereas with this one, like worst case scenario, a bunch of people like buy it or change their price
Mhm.
within that week, which is unlikely, but it could happen. Well, look, we only have 10 units of the thing. So we're
Mhm.
not going to panic. We're not going to get freaked out. We're just going to be like, all right, well, let's see how many sales we can make. We come back in a month. All right, we sold two of them. Right, we just need to drop the price and get out. So like that's the difference. I really haven't heard like many people in our community. We've over 2,000 people going through this process. Now, not all 2,000 are actually doing it because that is the nature of online courses. I wish everybody did it, but we all
Mhm.
know
Mhm.
some people they just don't do it for one reason or another. But in that community that we do have of people that have paid to be in
Yeah.
our program, like I don't see honestly, I don't see hardly anyone, if at all, coming into our group and saying, "Hey, I just bought loads of inventory. I can't make any sales." I
Right.
had one guy, I don't mind saying, recently hit me up and said, "Hey, I'm having a bit of trouble with getting permission to sell a brand or something," and he was kind of like a bit unhappy about it or whatever. And basically, Amazon weren't accepting his invoice, but they will accept it eventually. There's a process behind it. But what was funny was I was like, "Okay, tell me about the problem a bit more." And he's like, "Well, look, here's what happened, right? I sold out of all my inventory, and then I got this problem." And I suppose that's the kind of thing. Like
Right.
even someone who wasn't happy
Still a
at that
good
time, he had
problem.
sold out of his
Yeah.
initial inventory, you know? So it really does work because I really want to comment on what you also said about private label and the understanding thing. This is actually a lot simpler when you're in it, but maybe when you're just trying to get your head around,
Yeah.
I think the block almost is like, but how could I, someone with no experience, have never done this before, how could I sell Disney products? Like that seems impossible.
Right.
It seems like I would have to do something unethical to do that, but you really don't as long as you know what you're doing and you follow the process, you know?
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. Um, in terms of the time commitment for this, how do how much time would you say it would require for someone to get some products up and running?
Yeah.
Most people obviously they have their job. This would be something that maybe they're looking to do on the side and maybe eventually replace their income from. And then
Yeah.
once you do have products selling, how much time is involved? I guess you mentioned like updating the price and things like that. Like, is it
Yeah.
something that can be fairly passive, or does it, still kind of require big time commitments on an ongoing basis?
Yeah. Yeah. There's two sides to that coin, right? One side is when you're learning it and you're doing it yourself, you'll do it in 5, 10 hours a week to get yourself up and running, right? As you start to get more successful, what I see often happening in our community is people naturally want to put more time in because they start to have success.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, this might get me out of my job. So I'm going to put more effort into this thing now. I have more energy to put into this because I see it working. But 5 to 10 hours a week is enough to get you launched. Now, as you start to scale, the big difference between this and private label, in my opinion, is it's much easier to outsource to a virtual assistant.
Right.
We have actually training on that. We show people how to get a virtual assistant. We give the virtual assistant training. We literally have the training. We just give it to them. And then they're able to go and do the things that have to be done. We also can use technology. So you mentioned changing prices. As we scale, we start using price automation
Mhm.
tools to basically automate the changing of prices. We put rules in place, so that it
Is that
can't
an
go on.
Amazon tool or is that a third party tool?
It's a third party tool within Amazon. You would have to do it like manually,
Yeah.
but with this tool, there's many different ones like Aura and a few other different ones. But yeah, you can automate that whole process by giving it rules.
Cool.
That's something you'll worry about more though as you start to scale a bit. When you're smaller, you're just getting going. You'll just go into Amazon and change the pricing yourself, and it'll take you a little more time. But yeah, 5 to 10 hours a week to get you launched and up and running. Like we have one client, Casey. She's a mother of five, so she's busy. I have two kids. You got one, Stefan, and
Five's a lot.
you're busy enough even with one, right? She's got five of them. She homeschools all five of her children. She lives in America, and she does like 3, 4 hours a week at this, and she's doing over $10,000 a month. Last time I checked in with her in revenue. Obviously, that's not all profit, but she's doing 10 grand a month. So, that's pretty amazing. I have an interview with her where she literally says, if I had more time, I would be doing way bigger revenues, but I just don't have as much time because I've got 5 kids and I'm homeschooling all of them, you know?
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Another common question people will have is they'll say, okay, I live in Canada or I live in Australia or Europe or wherever else in the world. Can I do this? And if so, which Amazon platform would you recommend for someone to begin selling on?
Yes, this is a funny little battle we have in our community. So the answer is yes, you can live basically anywhere and do this. Now, in terms of where you should sell, my recommendation would be there's two markets, Amazon.com being the US and Amazon.co.uk being the UK. We actually just last week, we got a really good report in from John, one of our clients. I won't say his surname just to give him a bit of an anonymity, but certainly John was saying the majority of his revenue was coming from Amazon Canada. And he was doing this in Canada, living in Canada as well. Mike, my business partner, he is living in Canada, but we are doing it in the US and we're doing it in Canada as well. And so really you can live anywhere because at the end of the day, all you're doing is you're going to a supplier in a wholesale distributor, I should say, in that country. You're opening an account with them and you're working with them. Sometimes, there's rare instances whereby you're an Australian.
Yeah.
You live in Australia, you have an Australian company, and you're going to a US wholesale distributor, and they might say, oh, well, you're living in Australia. We don't know if we want to work with you or not, right? That happens sometimes, but
Mhm.
it's not the majority of times. But I'm just putting that out there because I know what'll happen. Someone might have had an instance where that happened before, and I just want to cover it because it can happen, but it's by no means like the common thing. We have clients from all over the world with companies in their own countries oftentimes, and they're opening up accounts with no problem. And oftentimes it's just a case of giving them a call,
Mhm.
getting in touch with somebody in the company and explaining what you're doing, explaining why you're located in the country you're located in and what you're planning to do. And oftentimes that resolves any issue. And it's very rare that there is one, but I want to cover everything as much as I can. So yeah, live wherever you want. I live in Ireland.
Yeah.
I've been selling these different markets as well. Where you set up in terms of like a company and stuff like that, I can't give financial advice. Neither of us can. All I can say is that oftentimes you can set up a limited company in your own country and you can sell on Amazon. But what also sometimes happens is, and this is one instance where I do say this, you can start as a sole proprietor with this model
Mhm.
and then you can change over time. However, you might have trouble opening up accounts sometimes because
Mhm.
some distributors, they don't really they like to feel like they're working with a company because there's a certain level of, I don't know, prestige that comes with having a company or
Absolutely.
whatever.
Got it. Got
Yeah,
it. Now, I know we're going to do a webinar training pretty soon, which, by
sure.
the way, for those of you that are watching or listening, I'll throw a link in the description for that, or go to www.projectlifemastery.com/MPS, MPS for Marketplace Superheroes. So this is, you teach this to people, you and your partner, your team, you guys educate people and teach this method that you guys have created. Do you mind sharing a little bit just about that and also just the webinar training that we're going to put on together? What are things that people can expect to learn from that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so with the webinar, we take the view that we want to give you as much like information as you need in order to know whether or not this is something you want to pursue. 'Cause
Mhm.
sometimes you go on these webinars and they're just telling you about the time when they lived in a car and they ate dog food and all that, and you don't learn anything. You just come out going like, I don't even know what this is about. With our webinars, we want to give you very specific information. So we're going to cover the 5-step methodology behind how to do this from start to finish. Mike, my partner, will even take the screen at one point and we're going to show you over the shoulder an example end to end of a product, how we came up with the idea of that item, how we found the brand, how we found the supply, the wholesale distributor, I should say, for that particular item and everything. You just see it the whole way through. Right. We'll show you our software as well. We show you how we literally can scan any listing. We can see how much revenue it's making. We can see how many units it's selling as well. And we'll also talk about how do we choose whether or not we're going to buy an item. So very specific information around that. We're also going to give you a lot of really good data points. I know it's like a bit of a boring word, but it's an important word about Amazon, right? About this opportunity, because at the end of the day, if you're looking to quit your job, if you're looking to put yourself in a situation where, one day this can be your thing or maybe part-time or whatever, you need to have confidence that like you're moving into a marketplace that's going to be around for a while. So we'll give you a lot of information around Amazon, the growth of Amazon. I mean, the spoiler alert is it's growing every year. Even their Prime Day, which is a big sale they do for people who have an Amazon Prime membership. We can go into that if we need to, but that day is bigger every year. This year that just passed was the biggest Prime Day of all time, and it's 2 days long now. And I think it was last year when I saw it. People saved $2.5 billion because they do big savings for their clients. But the amount of revenue in that day was like insane. I think it was $13 billion or something over the 2 days. Crazy. But you can tap into all that. And we'll
Yeah.
show you about that. We'll show you the growth. We'll show you everything. So you're going to walk away knowing exactly how this works, the tools you need to use, why Amazon is a great place to start as a beginner. We're going to show you how you get stuff into stock. And by the end of it, you're going to be like, all right, I'm ready to go and actually do this. Or you're going to say, that's great. I know this isn't for me. And in either case, we will be delighted to help you because that's what it's all about, my goal with what I'm doing with Marketplace Superheroes, and this is why we're so aligned, Stefan and I, is I want to help 100,000 people build a part of full-time income online over the course of my career. And I have to say, I just want to give a shout out to Stefan here because Stefan's been one of the biggest influences in Marketplace Superheroes history because he's helped us bring so many incredible people into our programs. And so, whenever we go and we will do a training for Stefan's community, like we're going to do everything we can to blow your guys' minds. We'll answer all your questions.
Yeah.
We will be fully transparent. And I believe you're going to love it.
Yeah, no, I would highly encourage anyone watching or listening to join the webinar. Stephen's a fantastic teacher. You really give so much value on these trainings. And one thing I always appreciate, you guys always answer tons of questions at the end. And so if there's questions here that we did not cover, things that you want to know about this method that are more specific, you can have an opportunity to ask Stephen or Mike that on the training.
Yep.
And for me, I've always looked at, if I want to start a business, which anyone watching or listening, most likely you're in that boat where you're looking to make a change in your life, start an online income stream for yourself. There's no better way of doing it than finding someone that already has the experience. They've already paved the way. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. You guys have already found out what works and what doesn't work. And you guys are not only learning and doing this based on your own experience, but the fact that you guys have a community of 2,000 people that are also doing this as well. You also learn from their experiences as well. You learn what to look for in finding a product. You learn what to look for and how to approach or find the distributors. All these little factors and nuances that someone that's brand new to this, if you're trying to do something like this on your own, it's just you're gonna encounter too many roadblocks that, in my opinion, it's just never worth trying to take that approach rather than just model success and model what works, because you can really save people a lot of time and failure and disappointment and a loss of losing money and whatnot by just telling them the pitfalls and what to avoid. So the way that I always approach learning anything in my life is, how can I shorten the learning curve? How can I fast track my process towards success? And that's essentially what Stephen and his team are providing, which is really exciting. And so, as Stephen said, I'd encourage you guys, join the training, check it out, learn more about it, determine if it's for you or not. And if it's not, I think there's always value in learning the different opportunities that exist, because I think that helps people make better decisions in their own life, because they can look at their current circumstances and your current path that you might be on, and if there's a better opportunity that can help you get to your vision a lot easier or faster, then it's exciting to know that. And maybe there's other opportunities you're considering, but it can, it's good to be able to weigh them all together side by side. And that's what we're doing here, because I know a lot of people, they know about private labeling, they know about Kindle publishing, they know about affiliate marketing. There's many ways that someone can make money online. But everyone has their own personality, their own kind of thing that might resonate more with them than others. There's nothing wrong with any of those methods. There's a lot of people making money in many different ways online, but it's trying to find what is the one that resonates with you the most, and the one that excites you, that you're actually going to take action with, commit to, and have success with. And what Stephen's sharing is a great method and a great opportunity that can work for so many people.
Yeah, and I'll just say one thing, Stefan. Like one of the things I learned from you many years ago was around it was around a thing for our website on Marketplace Superheroes. But I learned that from you. I modeled something that you shared, and that ended up becoming like the best thing we ever had for whatever, bringing people into our world, prospects into our world, and that was modeled from something that I learned from one of your programs. So like we're all learning from each other. We're taking the best that we all have and we're applying it. And I think that's the key for anybody listening today. I would say that if there's a difference between Stefan, myself, and maybe yourself watching, right? We're all the same people. We're all the same value as humans. What maybe is the difference is that we just executed that a little bit more. We've actually gone and just put it into action. And so for you today listening, like the thing that is the difference is actually putting it to work. And also, what I'm going to encourage you to do is not only model, but actually just copy. Literally copy our business model. Like, and I mean copy it. Now, I'm not saying if you see a product that we have, just go and sell the ab cream, because right now that wouldn't be a good opportunity. What I'm saying is just copy the business model, copy what we're showing you how to do. You do not have to figure out anything yourself, and just let's get to work. Like that's the key.
I love that. So again, if you guys want to check out the training, I'll throw the link in the description or go to www.projectlifemastery.com/MPS. The last question I have for you, Stephen, is if you can remember back before you built online businesses, back when you had a job way back when, we've all been there before, and you were in a position where you're looking to build a business, you're looking to become an entrepreneur. Obviously there's a lot of people that were in, our shoes, in that
Yep.
point in their lives. What advice would you give to someone like that? Someone that, maybe they don't like their job, maybe they have, kids or maybe plan to have kids, they want to have more freedom. What
Yep.
advice, I guess, would you give to someone like that? There's always the unknown, the uncertainty. Can I do this? Can I be an entrepreneur? But I guess
Yeah.
looking back, having been there yourself and now helping so many people, what advice could you give to someone like that?
Yeah, my first piece of advice, some of you may not like, but I think it's important, right? Step one, don't quit your job just yet. That would be my first piece of advice because there's been a lot of studies done on this, and according to a study that I heard recently, I can't remember exactly where it was from, but it was 30%, you're 30% more likely to succeed, I think it was, if you keep your job while getting your business running on the side. Now, some people won't like that advice because when I was in my job, I didn't like it at all, right? But the reason I say that is because you don't want to rely on your online business activities like too early on in the process because it's going to be the tail wagging the dog, right? You're going to be chasing certain things. You're going to be a lot more stressed out and all that. And you're trying to learn something. Like it takes time to learn things, right? So that would be my first thing. My second thing would be, and I know some of you might be thinking, well, you would say that, but really, like I'm living proof of this. Just find someone, even if it's not us, like, but just find someone who's doing the thing that you want to do. Like Stefan said earlier on, model the process. And I mean to the T. I mean the times when you think, no, I'm going to do it this way, stop yourself and do exactly what that person is showing you how to do. And then down the line, you can start like innovating and whatever. But model, do it exactly as they show you how to do. So find like a proven model that you can really follow. And then I suppose my third piece would be, look, focus more on producing than consuming. We all need to consume information in order to have the knowledge and have the awareness to be able to actually go do something. But when you find the right information, you want to spend 80% of your time executing on it, 20% reviewing it, going back through modules and making sure you fully understood exactly what the person was saying. That would be a big recommendation as well. Just getting to work more. And then finally, have patience. And this is coming from a now officially ADHDer, right? Where patience for me is something I struggled with for many years. But I'm doing this 14 years now. And as I've been in this work for 14 years, I've realized that patience is key. Something Tony Robbins said that is a little bit of a cliche, but cliches are true. That's why they're a cliche. He says, the whole idea of like you will underestimate what you can do in a decade, I think it is. Or you could overestimate what you do in a year, underestimate a decade. Is that right, Stefan?
Yeah,
You're
that's right. Yeah.
better.
Yep.
Yeah, and that is the case. I'm not saying it's going to take you a decade, by the way. It's not. Like we've got people within months doing phenomenal numbers with something like this. But what I am saying is to get out of your job and to start making changes and all the rest, that needs some patience. Because I'm doing this 14 years. Stefan, like, how long are you in this online world now at this point?
Yeah, like 15 years or so. Yeah.
Yeah, like so, it took us time to be successful too, but now look what we're doing now. Like,
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
we have nice things and all that now, but at the end of the day, that took time. So yeah, I hope that advice was helpful.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, for some people watching this that already have some experience, whether that you're coming from private labeling or
Yeah.
whatever else, a lot of people, they can just take this, hit the ground running, and they'll have something to compare it to and say, wow, this is so much easier. They can
Yeah.
really accelerate their success a lot faster versus someone that's brand new, never done any of this before. There's a bit more of a learning curve, so you do have to be a bit more patient with yourself with this. But this is not a get rich quick. None of that exists. It does require work and effort and that patience. But yeah, I believe anyone that has that is willing to work hard and be open-minded, be coachable, and have some of that patience. This can be something that can really change your life.
Yeah.
So thank you, Stephen, so much for taking the time to do this. And again, for those of you that have more questions, want to learn more, that want to dive into this, again, the link is in the description for you guys. But thank you so much again, Stephen. I look forward to doing the webinar training together and helping more people get started to start their own business.
I can't wait, Stefan. Some of the best nights of my life genuinely have been when we've done trainings together. So I'm so excited and can't wait to meet some of you guys as well in the comments. That's what it's all about for me. So I just want to say again, thanks for the opportunity, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this, and yeah, can't wait to see you on the training.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you again soon. Take care.